Clocks, clocks, and more clocks. This is Hallicrafters Rehabs, and I don't know what that has to do with clocks, other than it was a kind of another childhood passion. And I know as much about them now, almost a little more than I did then as a child. But this is one of the inheritances. It's a grandfather clock, Tempus Fugit. They're actually made in Japan. Don't tell anybody. And this is the first time it's been working in 22 years. I know this because I found the instructions inside from the maker who hand carved this case, or handmade, I should say. But there's some inlaid in it too, so that could have been done by him. He lives in Lenore, if he's still alive. But this clock was moved in 1998 from my parents' house to the Grace Ridge Cottage, and even then it says, your clock may need cleaning and oiling as it has been some time since I made it. It's 1998, 22 years ago. And it has not worked at all, to my knowledge, in the cottage. And it's probably been more than 2 decades since it's worked reliably. So, but these instructions were really good. Basically, it needed cleaning and lubricating. Now, I did not do the thorough job that it's supposed to do, which is basically, I did take the top outer casing on, the wood that you see above the shelf that's below the face itself, slides out towards us, and then you can get back there. And I oiled first thing I did was I sprayed it with Super HFE electronic cleaner with the door wide open because it's such a rude chemical, and a mask on. And that tended to clean out a lot of the gunk and the dust infected caked oil that had been there for several decades. And then I proceeded to use the radio controlled model oil that Don of Restore Old Radios has used for certain lubrications in his radios, and to lubricate as many of the shaft terminations into plates. So basically all it is a shaft that is machined to go inside a hole in the plate and rotate, and those need to be oiled periodically. So that pretty much got everything working. It took some working to make sure that you get every part of a particular, whether it's the quarter-hour chime or it's the timekeeping center mechanism, or it's the left-hand hour chime. The entire string of pulleys and shafts have to be oiled in order to get things working again. So I'm not going to go into this too much, but I've got another clock that hasn't worked since, I don't know, 20 years. It's a shelf clock, and with that we'll take a look inside and see some things you can do if you have any clocks like this that aren't working. You can use the tools that you have used to restore radios to get these things working again without paying a whole lot of money and to do it right. So we'll come back, we'll go to the garage where my shop is, and we'll take a look. So the clock you're looking at here, I have already removed the mechanism and pulled it out, and I've been servicing it, but it's a good example of what you have to do, what you really should do. I did not take all of this out of the other clock. I did have to take the front face off of the other clock, which came out easily and didn't cause any problems, and it gave me access for more oiling points. This one, don't do it. I started taking this one off, and parts were beginning to come out of the front of the clock. I put it all back in. So I got that going. So this was a clock that was actually given to me as a kid by somebody who was just sitting in a garage rotting. And I kept it for many years, and it worked. Then it stopped, and my mother had it actually serviced and the dial repainted by a clock maker or whatever for our wedding anniversary in 1973. And it continued to work for a while, decades after that, and then stopped because they all need to be cleaned and oiled from time to time. And of course, I haven't abandoned Hallicrafters. All the work was done in full view of an SX100. Okay, so we'll get back to the Hallicrafters in the next video. So I think I want to do a little close-up with I don't know if I can use a macro or not, maybe just an ordinary lens. And we'll do that and give you an idea what's involved. Basically, you want to take the mechanism out of its housing, in this case this wood over here on the right, which is outside the camera field of view. And I don't know, maybe if you're an automobile fan or something like that, you can understand that a clock is an exercise in gear reduction. Basically, you have, this is a spring loaded on those grandfather and clocks. That's not a spring that's in here. It's a chain and a weight that just slowly goes down by using the force of gravity. In this case, it's a spring. A lot of misconception is that, well, the spring must be locked up. No, 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 no. The spring will be okay if you lubricate it. And what you do is you go through with, I used, first of all, I cleaned it off with Super HFE. And actually, in this particular case, I put it in a ultrasonic cleaner with a little bit of detergent because it had years of Albert administered gunk and maybe WD-40, who knows what all I did over the years to try, oh, it's working, okay, squirt, squirt, or whatever it is. And that just makes cakes of oil. It's too much oil on these things is as bad as no oil at all. Well, this stuff, so I cleaned it thoroughly with the ultrasonic cleaner and and the water, it looked like dirty water when it came out. So obviously it did some good. Now, the Super HFE electronics cleaner leaves no residue. That's absolutely no residue, and that's what you want to do. But it will also leave dry, points of areas that should be lubricated. So first I cleaned it with that, and then you go through. You're supposed to use a special clock oil. If you're a clock person who knows a lot more than I do, let me just suggest to you that this RC radio controlled gear oil is a very good oil, and it also has a needle on it, but it doesn't quite have a long enough needle. A lot of the kits for oiling clocks have a needle that's about twice as long as that. And there's some places that you have to go. And you just start proceeding methodically. Every little place, there's one there. That's actually a tiny little dot there, but there's a gear in there somewhere, and there's one over there. And it's all in here. You do it on that side. You do your best to do it on the other side. And you go through everything, including you need to lubricate. What made the other clock work the best was to lubricate along here where the chimes are working. So let's see. Another problem I had was that this sprocket had just come out of its seat. So I just gently mashed it back into place, and now it's working. And so now it's going through its chime cycle. And then, so what you're seeing here is this is providing the tension, but it's going through large sprocket to small sprocket, large sprocket to small sprocket, all the way to the point where you get to this particular flywheel. And here's the hourlet chime right here going right now. So, yes, and when you put a pendulum on that will keep the time. I don't know how well, but it will keep that's another adjustment you have to make on these clocks. So the idea of gear reduction is used to an extreme in a clock. When I was in the Raleigh Astronomy Club, we had a 24-inch mirror in the club, and they built a telescope. Well, it's a huge thing to lug around. So somebody donated some place, and they put a circular concrete pad down and built a 2-story, 8-foot wide house to house that 24-inch mirror and telescope. And it has geared down to the point where you could use a drill motor, an electric drill motor, to turn the entire house, and all of us inside looking through the telescope in a circle. And that allowed you to adjust right ascension, and then you could adjust declination and point to a star. And it actually had the ability to, I think it did, I believe they built in with, this was in the early 90s, 1990s. They had even with computers back then, they could track that star inside that 2-story, looked like a way oversized outhouse. So that was all about gear reduction. So if you're not familiar with that, brush up on it, because it is helpful with clocks. So we'll put this back together and go from there. I can find, So the mechanism just screws right back in the face. Every one of these are unique. In fact, this was probably not original the way this was attached. Is I think there's holes here for the old screws that were in when the clock was made, and those have been stripped out. And the man who restored this simply put in new holes and screws that were far more had far better gripping power than, I think that's one of them. And one here. Yeah, he even did a little cutout for that screw to go in. Okay, the hour, it's on an hour, but I don't know what hour. Just slips on like that. And that can actually be rotated free. Well, you really shouldn't, because you'll mess up the timing. And then this goes in. It was on the hour. Oh, okay. Maybe not. It's got a slot in it. Let me get some bright lights on this. Sometimes I can't remember. I can't see in the dark. There we are. It's actually a little key that goes in there. I think it might be this way. Then there is this little washer, I think. And what happened to the other little piece? Okay. We're going to have to consult the floor monster and look for the most important missing piece. Thought I had them all, but they weren't there. Turns out I did have the part all along, and that was it. I was looking for that which was not missing. Never happened before. Okay, so there were also, this bevel goes on, and there were 5 screws that go in to attach that. So the mechanism is in the clock now, but we'll have to attach it in the back, especially the chimes. So I'm going to have to move the camera to show this. So these strips attach to the, I'll say the hammers. I am not well versed on the jargon. Let me flashlight this a second. Of clocks. But it just slips right in there, comes around and attaches to the lifter right here. There's just enough clearance so we get to fumble with this quite a bit to succeed. Well, you also need more dexterous hands than I have. and you don't want to tear it. Alright, we'll take a different approach. We'll attach it on the top part first. By going through this one. I remember they were really hard to get loose too. It's a square. It goes that way. Yeah, that's right. You come in towards me and it goes through, hopefully. Yes, then it rotates. There we are. And that's the trick. There's a trick to everything, right? First one. Aim towards me. There we go. Then rotate. And there's a slit in one of those sides that goes through the hammer. Here it is, it's over there. Again, trying not to permanently damage it by breaking that. Try manufacturing one of these, right? With a... Okay. And then the last one. Also, there was a problem with just the alignment that I had to adjust the front plate to the back plate. I see I need to do some cleaning there. I don't like spare oil running around. Okay. Now, this is to chime the 15-minute chime without knocking over the clock. That is the lever that does that. Okay, not aligned well, but again, we're on an angle here. And then this is the lever for the hour. Okay. I think it will work better this way. All right. So, these have moved to the end, which is why they sound like duds. So, give it so it'll move back. So that adjusts right here. I need to clean that off. It's full of dust. I didn't even think about cleaning this part. I need to go in another room, boy, that's... Okay. Okay, that's got bent a little bit. That's what the problem was. Taking all this stuff out. Let's see if I can get a long screwdriver to do that. I think it may have come out of the wood. Oh, I got it turned off. Okay. No? I don't know why that sounded like a thud. We'll have to adjust that for a few minutes. I don't want to take too much camera time on that. Well, I get it all back together and then it stops chiming. Par for the course. Well, a little more investigation and I found a little set screw that was loose. So let me start the chime. It's now rotating around. And in a second, you'll see the set screw. It's doing out of cycle. It's really on the hour cycle that you see the set screw. And that was loose. And so it wasn't turning things, basically. Here it's coming around. And you'll see it coming around. There it is. And so once I tightened that, everything was working. So now we'll put it all back together again. Okay, to get the chimes to work, you just have to work with this. They have to just strike the chime bar and not go too far, not land on the chime bar, and go far enough just to strike it. So it's a delicate balance, and some fingers have been in there related to mine in the past, and that but anyway, they're working good. So for an old mantle clock, it's doing pretty good. Now I think it's not very well adjusted for time. So I've got an adjustment up there I can use. So I'll do that. I'll have to figure out whether it's fast or slow. But amazing. Now we'll learn something when I turned it over and I found out who made the clock. For the first time. Or maybe I knew it in the past and then forgot. That has happened. That's the way it's always sounded, actually. Pretty good, though. Let's do this. We'll turn it to the side. Need to do a little bit of polishing on it. It's only $2.50, huh? It says Toledo, manufactured by the New Haven Clock Company. Let's see, it hasn't established. Oh, 1817. I don't think this was made in 1817. But anyway, there you are. Well, enough with clocks. At any rate, we'll be getting back to radios really after next week. I've got one more week of helping my sister clean out the cottage. There aren't any more antiques or anything like that to go through. It's just the hard work of just getting it back to broom clean, which is the standard for the next resident. They'll probably renovate it anyway. So this is Hallicrafters. This is Hallicrafters Rehabs. Thank you for watching and tolerating this one. And there will be back in the radio business after that. Thanks for the new subscribers.